thank you for making some time with me this morning to be part of this webinar and the group that we have here. It's an honour to have you with us. Everybody has been hearing me talk about Ebba Karlsson and her amazing book, True Starlight, which was an Amazon bestseller. And it is going into hard copy in January 2019.
Yeah.
Which gives me goosebumps, because that means it's actually going to be in shops and it's going to be all over the place for any person to find it, not just on Amazon. But we'll give some more places to find the book at the end of this webinar, and I'll be providing all those links. Ebba is from TrueStarCoaching.com. She is a very good friend of mine whom you've heard me talk about a lot, and we both met synchronistically back in 2014, so we've known each other for 4 years now. And I just moved to the USA, and I didn't know anybody and was looking for spiritual friends, and out of the blue, Ebba sends me an email asking about Akashic readings, and that kind of, we met from there, just her Googling a reading and just finding me, and then us meeting together and hitting it off, and you introduced me into a wonderful network in Charlotte. So during this webinar, we're going to be talking about your book and your journey. And one of the things that, you know, I love about your book is that it is, you are posing questions to the reader at the end of nearly every chapter, which really helps to trigger a lot of reflection and insight into our own journeys. And I feel like you can read that book many times and keep asking yourself those same questions, and you can keep gaining these new insights. So what I thought was really interesting to do as I was researching to do this interview with you is to look at those questions that you've been asking and maybe pose some of them to you to share, so that we can get some really good insight into this awesome book that you have. So we're just thrilled to learn about you. I'm honoured to have you here, and I wonder whether you would just kind of do a little introduction as to who you are, a little bit about your life.
Sure, I'd love that. So first, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Frankie, and I'm really excited to be part of this also. So my name is Ebba Karlsson. I'm Swedish. I live in North Carolina, Charlotte, not very close to Frankie, but not too far away either. So I've been here for 8 years, and I used to live in Monaco for 13 years before that, and lived in Sweden. Of course, I grew up there in Stockholm, my birth town. So I have, I'm a mother now. I have 2 kids. I have 3 cats, 1 dog, and 1 husband who's traveling a lot around. And part of the book was, it's all about that journey, being a mother and being in, kind of feeling like I was in the shadow of a professional athlete or professional golfer, and all that that entailed. So that's a brief.
And what about,
I feel like I am, yep.
Sorry, your ballroom dancing. I love your ballroom dancing. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that has opened up a lot for you, and I love watching you dancing away.
Thank you. Well, I guess it's like another realm, I guess, where the spirit can roam around and be free. But it all started because I was a bit tired of the golfing world, and my husband played, you know, professionally in house for 30 years almost. And it's all about golf, and I felt like we need to do something else that has nothing to do with golf. So I passed this beautiful place here in Charlotte, and the energy that came out from this place was just amazing. And I was so curious to find out what's going on in there. And I passed by and I got a pamphlet or a brochure. And then from there on, I took 5 lessons with Robert. I gave them for Valentine's Day because I thought that would be something that we could benefit, since we do go on balls and events and stuff.
Yeah.
And he, of course, got a bit hooked being a professional athlete. So we started off that way. And then when he went back on tour, he was like, you continue. And I discovered that I was a dancer at core in my heart. And I have still an amazing instructor who has really helped me, and many other beautiful instructors that are so in touch with them, who they are, and they share this beautiful gift of dancing. So I did a first showcase, and from then on, I realized that, well, I was in my mid-40s then, and thought, like, who want to see a showcase with me? Who would like to see a mid-40-year-old woman dance who's not very good? So, but I realized that I looked at the other dancers, and they were so, in their essence, and I was touched by that and moved and felt like I want to do that too. I want to explore that part of myself. So I went into dancing and did a showcase, and it shifted everything. Like, I had to do things that I never thought I could. Like, I stuffed a lot of emotions in my body, and I had to dare to face them again. And from then on, I just continue on the journey to dance, and now I'm competing since 5 years back. And yeah, so I'm loving it.
Amazing. It energetically shifts us. There's so many ways to help shift energy out of us and open up different energy centers within us. And they're not always the same. Like, for me, it feels like yoga has been doing that same thing, where it allows me to release that energy, to explore my body, to open up chakras that you physically can do without having to go through all the mental stuff. You're able to kind of let go of the mind and just let the body move the energy. So
Exactly. Yeah, and I think both of you and me, maybe we've done a lot of mental work or soul work, like brain, but some things were really stuck in the body, and we have to move through the body to get in touch with those feelings. So for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another thing I really wanted to talk about was your name, Ebba. I love it, but I also know that you weren't fond of it when you were younger. Just like me, I didn't like my birth name. But you explore your name, you share your name meaning, which I'd love for you to share with us.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I wanted to be called Liz. I thought that was so cool because my second name is Elizabeth. So, and Ebba was like an old lady's name that I didn't resonate with when I was a kid. And then I figured out, like, what does it mean? And it was like a Germanic old name, and I think it meant wild boar originally, or courage, which I prefer the courage, I guess. So courage actually is from French, which means, cœur is heart. So courage is deriving from French, means speaking the truth from your heart. So I think that was like, when I found that out, I was like, wow, that's really, like, courage has been my guiding star, and speaking or looking for truth and speaking as much as I can the truth has really been helping me and been my, something to inspire to.
It reminds me, because I didn't like my birth name Francis when I was given it. I have grown much more fond of it over the years. But the meaning behind it is Latin, and it means free one. And that absolutely gave me energetic purpose, because that my whole life thing, yours being courage, mine has been freedom. And it's just amazing that these names have such unique energy vibrations with them, that actually that's all part of our lessons and who we are. So it is really interesting to explore our name meanings, because it does shed light on what our journey is about.
For sure, for sure. And I suggest everybody takes a look at their name and see what it means and find the true meaning. Sometimes it can be hard because it's, there could be a mixture of words, but most of the time it should be easy to find online.
Right, and I mean, I remember I definitely looked up my name meaning when I was younger, and I don't think it resonated with me the same way as it did many years later when I'd actually awoken and realised that I am actually on that path. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's embracing it for sure. So, in chapter 2 of your book, you quote Ralph Waldo Emerson, who I love, and the quote is, "When it's dark enough, you can see the stars." And it's a quote that definitely resonates with me on many levels. And I know, it's something that I talk about a lot, is how much of a gift the darkness is. We need it to know what light is. We need that balance. It is the natural cycle of this reality that we're in. It's dualistic. So I really feel like you have a true appreciation of both sides, and understand that you're not running from the darkness anymore. And I know that you have had some challenges that have gotten you to that point. You've had to explore the darkness a lot to really be able to get that appreciation from it. And your earlier years, your modelling career in Paris, was quite a deep journey for you, and I definitely admire you a lot. I wonder if you'd be willing to share some of that history with us, anything that...
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I truly believe that we decide kind of our journey before we come into this body, or at least we have some kind of map that we are following. So today I know that nobody's a victim. But when it happened to me when I was a child and was conditioned to believe what I saw and made that my own reality, it was, of course, harder then. And I think now as an adult and going through my journey, I can understand that all the hardships that I went through as a child and as a teenager made me who I am. And I know that part of me chose that journey to have that experience. So I actually don't even feel like I judge the persons anymore. I don't even judge my parents, even though, I mean, that doesn't lead to freedom. For me, the most important thing is to be free from that past. So just bringing light into it and looking at it and saying, okay, this is what happened to me, like, and it made me feel like I didn't want to live because I bought into the illusion that I was the person in that body having that experience. So, for instance, my parents argued a lot and they were fighting a lot, and it led to my father being unfaithful and my mother started drinking. So it was very difficult for me to be able to be myself and that surrounding. And then when I was 14, I really didn't want to live. So.
But it was a real paradigm shift moment. That was what I call an Eckhart Tolle moment.
Yeah.
Because in that moment of truly feeling like I'm out, I am out, I'm ready to go, bye-bye everybody. And in that very same moment to have that paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And to see the night stars and the stars and to suddenly realize, oh my gosh, this is a gift. This is a gift. What am I doing? This is a gift to be. And it then completely, I think it awoke you,
Yeah, definitely, at least a little bit. And
yeah, it was, part of one of the nudges on this path.
Yeah. And I think many of us maybe can recognize that moment when it's so dark, and when we enter into that darkness and really look into it, it shifts, as you said. It's because
Right.
we hit the bottom,
Right.
and then it will turn. And that's why I think we shouldn't be afraid of exploring darkness, because it's important to be authentic with the memories and what we have experienced in a lifetime. So the more
Right.
we can actually go into that, invite it, and not try to fight it, the more we will understand about the light.
It's true. And,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things, it's the same, a lot of people have said to me in the past, oh, how did you get through that? How did you do that? And I'm like, you move into it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't resist it. You don't run away from it. You might not like it. It might not be the most enjoyable moments or times of your life. But if you can move into the discomfort and the darkness, you
Yeah.
will find the light on the other side of it. Where it's the
Mm-hmm.
fear of what is when I finally let go and move into this that really is holding us back. Which also I feel, pain for me is the same thing. There's different levels of it, but generally, you can actually move into pain as well, the same as fear, and it shifts you. It's not worse, it's better. It's
Yeah.
actually amazing once we just completely drop all those walls and that resistance within ourselves, and really face it head on. Um, and I know that you have done a lot of healing work um, around, different things in your life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
things like betrayal. I know that a lot of people have had that in their relationships, either friendships or with partners. It's a hard one to move forward with, and just wondered whether you had any tips on how you choose to move forward with that.
Yeah. I think absolutely. And one of the biggest things is really to, how does it make you feel to always constantly think about it and run nagging it in your mind. And for me, it was crucial to decide to let go of it, because I didn't want to be a slave under that thought any longer.
Right.
So then I just had to, like, even though it was painful and hurting and everything, you just have to ask yourself, does it serve me to keep holding on to this emotion? Or am I really ready to let it go?
Right.
And for me, it was no option. Like, of course, like, I see that I played a role in this betrayal. Like it, and also I was the one betraying. So
Right.
what we give to others, we will have to go through it ourselves. It's like, it's bound to happen, right? So I think also that made me be more compassionate, because I knew like what I do to others will come back to me.
Right.
And
And I love that. It's taking ownership of ourselves. It's saying and really, truly humbling and realizing at some point in my life, I have been this person, that I see myself in them.
yeah.
And that is why this is being reflected at me. And that's why, they are giving me the gift of the opportunity to make peace with
Mm-hmm.
that part of
Yeah.
myself. Because as soon as you make peace with it, it's so much easier to forgive and move forward with the
Mm-hmm.
person you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It is very hard to humble ourselves down and reflect and truly be honest and see that, we are everyone and everyone is us, and we have made all of those um, choices in our lives too, and that we have hurt people, made poor choices as well, and that everything's energetic, that we have to
Mm-hmm.
experience what we give. Um,
Yeah.
so,
And I've seen so many people holding on to grudges, like close people to me, and I see what that does to their own life, how they shrink, how they get old before they actually old, and they age quicker, because it's just this negative energy that eats us up
Yeah.
from inside.
Yeah, it's
So
like there's a analogy of it that, you know, holding on to these negative emotions is just like drinking a bottle of poison and thinking that the other person's going to die from it. It's
yeah.
not.
Hmm.
You're the one holding on to all that stuff, and it's eating away at you. It's doing nothing to the other person or the situation. It
Yeah.
only eats away at us. And I am also a firm believer that, you know, if we replay those negative stories, they will eat away at us. It does have an effect on our health, that our minds
Hmm.
are completely in communication with our body, and whatever's going on up here is feeding through to the rest of us. So
Yeah.
that's Louise Hay work there. For anybody else that wants to explore how our emotions are connected to our bodies. But yes, so yeah, taking ownership of ourselves, I think it's very brave, and I think it's empowering, and it allows us, you know, to put everything back in our own
Mm.
hands, and not somebody
Yeah,
else's.
and forgiveness, like forgiving ourselves for uh, what we believed in, what we thought was the truth, what we thought was the best thing to do, and also the people that we were, who betrayed us, knowing that somewhere they thought they needed to do that, and maybe they were disillusional, or it's also forgiving that at core we don't want to hurt each other.
Right, right, right.
So,
I believe that too. I believe that
hmm,
too. We all actually have, it's a need that is not being fulfilled, it's not met
yeah,
somewhere along the so
yeah.
okay, so I'm intrigued to know what kind of guided you, what gave you that final push to sit down and begin writing True Starlight.
It was something that was built. It was like being pregnant. It was being built up within, I guess. When I started, when I knew I was going to be a coach and started working again, like really professionally, it was the next thing I wanted to do was to share a little bit about the coaching. So I thought I was going to write a book about coaching. And then after I went on my little sacred pilgrimage to France,
Mhm.
I sat in a hotel in Versailles outside Paris, and um, I started writing. I started writing this coaching book. And then when I've done maybe one third of it or one fourth of it of something, my editor said, "You need to write a memoir, not a coaching book." So it became a memoir, and it became like a catharsis, I think you say,
Yeah.
um, for me to share my story. I knew I had to share my story to be more authentic as a coach and more, yeah, more real.
Right. Right.
So it was really thanks to the author incubator and Angela Loria, who is the owner of Author Incubator, who I saw a Facebook ad and just knew that this is what I need to jump on this train, because it was like write a book in 9 weeks. And I can truly recommend this program for anybody who
Yeah, it did
feels
look
they're ready
awesome.
to
It did, and
write a
you
book.
can look it up online. Everybody, Author Incubator, really good.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
So that's how it
Double
kind of
underline
happened.
that. So you had done this with the Author Incubator, and uh, you're writing away in Paris. Um, did you have any idea that you were what the outcome of this book was going to be, or was it just flowing?
I kind of knew the big picture of it. Like I needed to show people that everybody has what it takes. Everybody has their own guidance systems within them, and And I felt like it was my mission and my responsibility to share my story, in that sense that a lot of us follow other people. We follow, it could be parents, a religion, a spiritual belief, a coach, organization, whatever it is. And it's so easy to get lost in thinking that somebody knows better than me about my life and my purpose and who I am. But truth is, nobody knows. I was going to swear now, but nobody knows about your truth and your story, because you're unique and you have unique setup of frequencies that you're the one who has to figure that out. We can all, coaches can only be showing parts of what worked for them and that maybe resonates with you, and then you can apply it. If it doesn't, if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's not your story.
Right.
So I think we all have to find our unique voice and unique story, and I guess that's kind of what I did. I'm still learning every day, but I found parts of it, and that's why I felt it was my responsibility to share that.
Right, and I feel strongly about that too, and I think it's been a part of a lot of our journeys, actually, realizing that, it's no particular guru or mentor or guide or coach that is going to tell you how to live and how to act and how to be. It's your unique combination of tools that you find that work for you. And we are all just being teachers and guides for each other, not a guidebook. This isn't rigid and something that you have to live by in a certain way. It's here's this information and do what you will with that. Go crazy with that. Do your own thing with it. Don't feel like you're stuck and rigid into being just one way or being stuck into one set of beliefs or system. Allow yourself to have parts of all of it if you wish.
Absolutely, it's so true.
And the more people realize that, any amazing enlightened master or guru that has ever walked the earth is a human being just like you and I. All of us are just human beings, and we all have the capability to do this. These are just choices, and what the gurus, the masters, and enlightened ones have done is just been a guide, not a guidebook. So, I think that yours is a perfect field guide.
I have a funny story about that. When I was going through therapist training at Osho Risk, I was a 9-month program, or over 1.5 years. There was a sannyasin I could disciple to Osho, who I met, and I asked him his name, and he said Nandan something, and it came out so funny, and I thought, well, that's a funny name, and I didn't mean to be mean to him or anything, but I said, good for you. And it sounded like I was, sarcastic, even though I wasn't. Funny thing is, like 6 months later, I am myself going through this Shaktipat, this sannyasin, to become one of Osho's disciples, because I waited to the last minute, because I was very skeptic. I just didn't trust everybody, and I just wanted to see what this was. But at the end, I was really taken about his love and the energy. And at that time, Osho wasn't alive, so it was one of his closest disciples that gave me this Shaktipat initiation. And guess what name I got? It was Nandan. But the female version of Nandan, which means actually Mabodhi Nandan, which means Garden of Awareness. But it was so funny, like the things we need are the things that we project sometimes.
Right.
And vice versa. If there's something we don't like about something, we need to go through that ourselves to heal that part of ourselves. So.
Right. I hear you. Yeah, completely. So you are really good at listening to your intuition and following your hunches. You are come from a line of very intuitive women. I know that you're mother and grandmother were both very, had gifts that they explored. It's the same with mine. My mother and my grandmother also had gifts. Tell us what it's like when you follow your intuition for you.
It's a great question. Intuition is so, like the word in itself, can have so many different meanings to different people. To me, it means that we're really aligned with our true and higher self and acting out from that knowingness. And that knowingness can be very shut off because we forgot who we were, we forgot who we are. And we kind of need to go back and hear that inner voice. Sometimes the intuition can be so much mixed up with conditioned intuition, like what we were taught to believe and conditioned to believe in. So we have to kind of clear that.
Okay. We've had a slight interruption. Okay. Bear with me, everyone. Just adding Ebba back in.
Sorry
Oh,
about
that's
that.
not so bad. That's one glitch.
I was
Not bad.
disconnected.
Not bad. I'm
Anyway,
sorry about that. Technology happens. But you were talking about your
intuition.
following your intuition.
Yeah. So about intuition, and go ahead.
We were talking about how intuition will mean different things for all of us, and that in so many ways, you know, we can limit it because we have so much going on in our own minds. It gets mixed up with all the mental chatter. We're not listening to that voice that's quite quiet and gentle inside. We're listening to the monkey mind a lot. And we also sometimes can block our intuition with our belief systems because we can only be believing this one thing, but our intuition is actually telling us the opposite. So we may be burying it down that way as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so for sure, I think I so agree with you. One way of really connected to that intuition and knowing it is real is to try it out. First, connecting to your higher self, and there are many ways of doing that. I use meditation. I've used it for years, Vipassana, but it can also be taking a walk, just connecting to yourself, and you feel that usually in your stomach or in your heart. Those are a couple of ways, but everybody has to find what works for them to hear, and then try it out. Like, okay, what happens if I go with this feeling? I feel like I should drive to the left when I know I was supposed to go to the right. Just following that and see what happens, and creating kind of like receipts. What happened when we did follow our intuition or guidance systems versus not following them.
Right. Yeah.
Because then you have reference. If we don't have references, it's hard to know.
Right. And we are all intuitive beings. I really believe that this is not a gift just for certain people, and you know, may come more easily to some than others. Some people may have been born, you know, because another word for intuitive is psychic. It's basically kind of the same thing, you know. Some people are born that way and other people just develop it. I always feel, I've said this many times, that spiritual people become very naturally intuitive because we're meditating, we're giving ourselves lots of tools to kind of open ourselves up, so we just naturally become that way. But then the psychic people aren't necessarily the same way, because they've been born that way. They're not working on their gifts the same way necessarily. So I do find that there is a difference there
Yeah.
between spiritual and psychic and those different categories, because I like to stick to the spiritual side, because I think from there, that's where everything else just naturally is a part of us.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, because a lot of the time spiritual people who have talents, they're often very open beings. They're empaths, or they're very open, and sometimes they, you know, get their emotions mixed up with other people's emotions, so they can be feeling very depressed, or very angry, or very something else, when it's not
Right.
really their own feelings. So, for instance, my mom, she's, you know, somewhat psychic, and she's talented in doing people's cards, but she also has to do. She had a lot of trauma in her childhood that she had to release and let go of. So just because we're spiritual doesn't mean that we're free from all this trauma and chaos and drama in our lives. And many times it's actually the contrary, because it made us go through the darkness and finding the light
Right.
to increase our gifts.
Right.
For me, I think that was the case. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's
So,
definitely a reoccurring kind of thing for sure with other people that I've met too, is that these gifts don't just come easy. You know, it does come with our challenges, and the more that we are challenged with that, it opens us up more. It helps us to realize what's important. It takes us back to simplicity again. And I think that when you're living in simplicity, that's where all the subtle energy is, and where our intuition is lying as well. And I also, that, you know, our intuition and gifts come in so many different ways. You know, we can have this and a combination sometimes as well, if we keep working on it, because we have all these different clairvoyant abilities. Some people are more feeling, some people get the sense of smell, some people get the audio, they can actually hear things. There's all kinds of different gifts. It's just exploring yourself to find out which ones are your strongest ones, and know that, you know, that they're actually all there to be unlocked. So I remember doing I was in a development medium mystic development group many years ago, and I stood up to you know, see who I could connect with. And in that connection, several of my senses were tapped into. One of them was I could smell a bakery, but I'm standing in a room with no bakery. She doesn't cook, and there's definitely no cake. And what was the other one and it was funny, because in this development group, if you're the person that gets picked for the reading, then you're the next one up to come give the reading. And I'm working away, all my senses are going bing, 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 bing. And this woman is ignoring me. She knows it's me. She then later tells me afterwards, I knew it was me. I just didn't want to come up and do the reading. But Spirit weren't going to let her get away with that. So they pushed her name out of my mouth.
wow.
Dawn. It just went, Dawn. I didn't even know where that name came from. She looked at me like, oh God, I'm not going to get away with it now. I just, oh my God, you made me work so hard for that.
Wow.
Until they literally pushed her name out of my throat. But I was open and okay with that, and that's what I was there to do. So I don't think these never happened to me before or after, but I've had those nudges sometimes where you don't even know where they've come from. They just happen. So.
Yeah. Did you also experience, like, when you have relieved or let go. Like, let's say we were digging deep to release an old emotion or an old conditioning, and after having done that, we become closer, and spirit or grace or universe, God, whatever you want to call it, can we are much more in tune to pick up those subtle signals.
Definitely.
So it's like, I really like that idea of having an onion, and how we are like an onion, we're peeling off to come to the pearl.
Yeah.
And it's so true, because the more we kind of peel off everything that it's not who we are, we come back, we come down to the essence, and in essence we're connected to everything, so we are much more in tune and can pick up everything that's surrounding us.
Completely, and I do. I think I am an onion too. I completely think of everything's like that. Myself and all of our lessons and everything, because there's many layers and levels, even to the understanding of our challenges and things. What we understand now about something of the past is very small in comparison to how we're going to understand it later on, because new layers will peel off. We will have expanded more, so we're able to see it from an even bigger perspective. So again, it's just another layer. It never ends, and it's kind of like a labyrinth. It's not it just doesn't go just one way. Sometimes we circle back on the same things, and we touch back on the same healing that we thought that we had already done. Why is this coming up for us again? But it's all part of these layers, and it just can't all be ripped off all at one time, you know. So we talked about, you know, the best way to kind of develop this inner knowing is things like meditation, dancing, listening to your body, being in, you know, listening to the stillness inside of yourself, and becoming more in tune with the simple, subtle energies of life. For me, it's just meditation, and my breath is like the most powerful thing. Like, I don't need anyone for any of those things. I don't need any tools to do it. I don't need to go any special place to do it. It's something that I can connect with and do anytime I want, you know, whether I feel good or bad. And as soon as I begin to breathe properly, especially the diaphragmatic breathing, with the belly expanding, that is just magic for me. It's like pressing reset, and I only have to do 6 of those breaths, and I'm a whole new person, you know. So, how, you know, what are some of your favourite ways of developing that inner knowing? Because I know it changes as well. We need different things at different times.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And it's so true. And it's really just listening within and feeling what feels good. If it's trying to meditate, or, I mean, there's so many different kinds of meditations. Like, there's silent and there's active. And, you know, sometimes to get off the mind, the chattering mind, we need to do more active things to be able to relax. So it's trying out different things and trying them out for at least, I would say, 21 days at least, to have some kind of deeper experience. But there are so many types of body work people can do on you, also to help you release. Reiki, I know you do Reiki.
We love Reiki.
And
I mean, even the things like, you know, hypnotherapy for some deeper explorations of our subconscious. I've had a lot of success with hypnotherapy, actually.
So, I mean, what I do is, like, I have a group of people, I invite them, and we do meditation, or we've had also a group where we work with the chakras and blocks of the chakra and work through the whole body. And that is giving people, some of them have been drawn to do that, and it gives them the tools that they need to get in touch with that, you know. So it's going what feels good for you, I guess.
Right, and it's another good way of you know, learning to listen to your intuition and your body. What is it that I feel drawn to right now? Because, you know, for me, 1 minute it is meditation and yoga every day. The next minute I have to play the drum every day, and another day it's like, nope, I need hypnotherapy and acupuncture, and it's different things all the time. And you know, my artwork definitely helps me with that meditation, because I have to focus on only one thing. Gardening, exercising, it's the same thing. I just try and only think about what I am doing and nothing else. And it's definitely serving me really well. Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about is the law of attraction, and also how we kind of manifest things into our lives, that we actually are creators. Life isn't happening to us. We are very much a part of its creation. And I'd love to know maybe one time where you've manifested something in your life, and what you kind of learned.
Yeah. When I realized I was manifesting, that was a long time before I actually have had heard about the law of attraction and Abraham Hicks. There are many people or channels that talk about law of attraction, but I did a group with a dear friend of mine called Sandy Levy, and she did a vision quest kind of based on the Course of Miracles with me and my family. And I had just come out from having, I was in my mid-20s and had tried to start a holistic center. I was burnt out, I had a big debt and money. Yeah, it was just a bit of a mess, actually. And we sat on my mom's balcony, my parents' balcony, and we were drawing these pictures of house and kind of designing my life as I wanted it to be. Like, this is how much money I will have by the end of the year. And it was more or less like a fantasy. It was just like a, you know, something really fun. I didn't take it seriously at all, honestly. I didn't cling to it. And I think that was the big key. Like, I didn't attach to it. It was just, you know, just very
Wouldn't
positive.
it be nice?
Kind of, exactly, yeah. But it was just like, yeah, this would be fun, nothing else. And so what happened was, a couple of years later, like actually only a year later, that money that I wanted to create had been created. Also, a couple of years later, or maybe 3 years later, that house that I draw on that paper was actually the house we were living in at that time. So, and I wrote about that in the book, and it's just an interesting story how we can create what we desire when we don't attach to it. Because I think when we attach to something, it's always coming out of this sense of not having anything. It's always a sense of lack, because we cling to it. And that's why we don't create what we want, because it doesn't have this fun and creative feeling.
Right.
Do you
I
know what I
remember
mean?
having this
Yeah.
conversation with you before, and definitely that feeling part of it is very important in the manifestation. It's not feeling, you know, not holding on to the feeling of want. It's the feeling of, if if it's for me, it will be for me, you know, and truly believing that if this is supposed to be mine, it will happen. End of story.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. And that, so the law of attraction is part of the 7 laws of the universe. So there's also the law of allowing, which is so important, because then we allow the universe or God, source, to work for us, because we are actually worthy of having all this abundance. It's just that we don't believe it. And then the law of a deliberate intent is where we put the intention out there. And the more specific we can be, the more clear, the more it's actually going to work for us.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've had some, for anybody who wants to know a bit more, other than reading Ebba's book, obviously, but some of the background would be in things like The Secret, which is a great documentary. I talked about it the other day on a video about creating vision boards and things like that, and how that actually helps to focus these manifestations as well. And any of the ones that I've done in the past have always been crazy.
Yeah, like, and also Asking is Given. It's a great book.
I was going to say,
Edwin
yeah,
Hicks.
Asking is Given also, yeah, completely another great book. So, yeah, we definitely are very powerful creators, and putting these things to the test is fun. Vision boards are fantastic. I love doing those, but I'm very arty and visual anyway.
Yeah, me
I love
too.
that stuff, and
You should do a workshop of that.
we so should
Yeah,
actually. That
be
would
fun.
get people excited. That'd be nice.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so I really want to go a little bit deeper now and talk about past lives a little bit. I believe in reincarnation, and I have experienced memories and different healing sessions and readings and all kinds of things about past lives that have come together in this. From various sources, I've had information that just backs up the other, and in between my own dreams and recalls, I've remembered many of them. So, what is your thoughts on past lives? Have you had any experiences or recalls?
Absolutely. I truly believe that we are reincarnated, past lives, whether it was on this planet or somewhere else in the universe, for sure. I've experienced hypnosis, like when I was younger, previous lives, also in meditation, and many times meeting people. I can have brief, like I know this person from before, and flashes of memories can pass by. So I truly believe that. And I think one of the coolest memories was actually my son Caesar, who is named Caesar. Not because we wanted to name him that, but it was my daughter Taya who said it's something with a C. And when we lived in Monaco, he once, or we all took them, me and my friend, our kids, on a picnic up on the mountaintop. And I don't know if you know, but Monaco is kind of on the edge of the water, and it's all a big mountain coming down. And we took them on this picnic, and they had to walk up this big old stone staircase, like in the nature. And my son, who was 4 years old then, he's like climbing and trying to walk up there, and he's like, I've been here before. Like, and yeah, no, you haven't, this is the first time. I'm like looking at him, and he's like, I built this. I was like, yeah, you did not. Like, I'm just joking with him, and we come up to this beautiful plateau looking over the Mediterranean, and he's like, yes, I've been here before. And I didn't say anything else, and we stopped talking about it, and we had the picnic. And then going back down the same way after the picnic, going back to the car, I looked around, and there was this huge big sign on the side of the road saying Via Romana. It was made by Julius Caesar. And this road was 2,000 years old. But to me, that was like, you could see in the children
Yeah,
that
other
they would
people should have
remember.
some goosebumps right about
Yeah.
now.
So the kids definitely remember, and I could see with them when they kind of closed off that memory, when they were too much believing in this reality and made this reality everything. So yeah,
Definitely.
it's a good
Oh, I love
reminder.
I love that. Health even. What about things like higher dimensions and solar systems?
Yeah, my first real experience, like deep experience, was when I did the quantum healing hypnosis that I wrote about, and discovered, to my great surprise, that I was not a human being, that I had alien memories of being some kind of a entity not from this planet. And what came to me then was the word Arthurian, and I had really no idea what that meant. So my friend who did the quantum healing hypnosis asked if it was Arcturian, possibly. So I said, yes, maybe. and after that I did all the research and I found you, but it was just mind-boggling and surprising that I could see something so and experience something so real that was so difficult to understand in one way, and then knowing that I was not alone. There were so many people who had the same experience.
Right,
So
and that's one thing that definitely brought us both together, was that I'd also
yeah,
those experiences and have connected with other beings from other dimensions, different solar systems and universes, and I myself know that I've not always been incarnated on planet Earth, and very connected to these Arcturian beings also, who seem to care a lot about taking care of this planet, and definitely are very kind and have helped me a lot with my spiritual growth, for sure. They've helped me to develop a lot, and are very keen to see this planet thriving and well.
yeah,
So
yeah. So that you found it out on your own, I guess. But to me, I can really recommend trying to do the quantum healing hypnosis and go to Dolores Cannon. She passed away a couple of years ago, but her daughter still runs the company, I think, and she's got some amazing people there, and to
her
do,
books are amazing as well.
yeah, and you can see her DVDs, I mean videos also.
And it was actually hypnosis that had helped my process in the beginning, because I had had a lot of missing time, different things, whole other stories, or a completely separate webinar for something like that. But yeah, I had a lot of missing time, and I wanted to explore that, and it turned out to be something completely different.
Yeah.
So, and I was not looking to go, it's not what I was looking for, and I didn't want to believe that for quite some time. But you've got to keep following your heart and listening to your intuition, because all these things happen for a reason.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
true, so true. And yeah, continuing, I mean, other things like I know now, it's we are multidimensional beings having an earthly experience, and I've seen since that hypnosis, I've experienced beings around me, but also going in and out of different dimensions. And I don't know how many dimensions we actually have, but I've heard there's 12. We're currently in the third one, of course, going in and out of the fourth, where people start seeing things that don't belong to this reality, like spirits or, yeah, different sound waves, different colors and stuff like that.
Right. And I always think about, just like us, these dimensions are very much like an onion. We're actually, it's all one, but each dimension is a layer of this one onion. And
Yeah,
it's like the higher dimensions perceive the lower dimensions easier than the lower dimensions perceiving the higher, even though it can be done. It's
yeah,
just different
yeah.
layers and levels of reality. That's why I love geometry, because it's
I love that. I love that picture. I talk about a radio station, like a radio station sending frequencies, and we can choose to play, channel 80, and then
right.
you might be on channel 100, and I can tune into your frequency, and then we can see the same things. But we both exist at the same time. It's just that explains why we sometimes feel and see different things, even though we think we see the same things. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
But it's because we go in and out of these frequencies all the time.
Yeah.
So like the Mandela effect, I guess, it's kind of something
Yeah.
like that.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you decide, differentiate and decide about what your desires are? What are the things that you really want, and things like, higher purpose versus conditioning?
Well, that is a great question. I think we all have to go and ask ourselves, what does desire mean to me? And how can that desire make my life better?
Right.
So, we're conditioned to believe in good and evil, right? A lot of thanks to the church. But I think it's polarity. And when we know, like, there is darkness, there's light, where do I choose to be? Where do I want to express my energy? And I think that depends on where we are in life. Like, sometimes in life we want to have a child, or we want to have a house or a new car, or we think that money is going to make us happy, so we desire the money. And then when we have the money and when we have the child and when we have everything that we want something else, because it's like we grew from that experience and we got the experience, and now we want to change and create something else. So I think I've come to realize, like, nothing is really bad unless your intention is negative. If you want to hurt somebody, so I think we have to let go of the old conditioning, thinking what is good and evil. It's just energy. And how do we choose to focus that energy? How can we make a better world with directing that energy?
Right.
So desire is defined by, how does it feel? Like, is this something that will give me energy or take energy away from me?
Right. And
That,
is this desire something that I've been programmed and conditioned to have as well?
mm-hmm,
Because just for example, many women are conditioned to be mothers, that is how we're supposed to be. So we grow up desiring children, and then we get the kid and we realise it's not actually, all it cracked out to be, or I need something else, or whatever. And I believe that that's because a lot of us have been programmed to believe, okay, you're a woman, you have a baby, you look after the house, you
mm-hmm.
be a good wife. And this is just one example of a programmed desire, in my opinion. It's not necessarily what you truly want.
I so agree with you, and that goes for everything. Like, I want, a different partner, or I want to change my body to whatever,
Right.
because I think that's the problem. And when we do that, we realize that it's just changing the outside. It's just not dealing with the problem in itself.
Right.
So I think when we come to the core of that origin, at least my experience is that the true desire is to do good, to be aligned with your higher self, and act out of that energy where we're whole, where we're loving, where we're unconditionally loving, and sharing and being creative.
Right.
Yeah. But to know what we desire, we have to know what we don't want. That's crucial.
Right.
And we have to be really drastically honest with ourselves. Like, I don't like this, and not covering up. Because I think
Right.
sometimes we think we want something when we don't. you know.
It's very true. It's
Mm.
really, don't just listen to your mind.
Yeah.
Question it.
Yeah.
Why? Why? And
Yeah.
find out the root of what these desires are inside,
Mm.
where are they truly coming from, and what am I
Mm-hmm.
hoping for the outcome of them to be once they are fulfilled.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
it gives
And
us
sometimes we are not allowing ourselves to have our desire fulfilled because we are so conditioned to think that we're not. Why should we? That's bad. You're doing something evil. You're blah blah blah. It's like the whole, thousands of years of conditioning telling us that we're not worthy of being blissful. So
right,
then we can't create what we desire because this is underneath all the time. So we have to
right,
identify what's beyond.
completely.
So, yeah.
And so how do you cultivate a free thinking mind in this day and age?
I love that question.
From you.
My favorite subject.
Every question inspired by your book.
Oh my gosh, this is probably going to be my next book, a big chapter in my next book is how to deprogram ourselves, because we're so conditioned every day to believe in the system, not only watching television and the cable TV, because cable is the worst, I think, but to the music stations. Like, for instance, I don't think people know generally, like in the 50s, it was decided to transmit radio in a certain frequency. And that frequency in itself is actually very low. So it's lowering ourselves all the time, because we're like an instrument that wants to attune ourselves like a tuning fork to a higher frequency. But if we're constantly fed this frequency of lower, that's what we're going to tune into. That's why we stay in our lower chakras, lower energies, and it's all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll and survival,
Right.
So I think deprogramming is really important, and you can do this in many different ways. Shutting off the TV, looking at things that actually make you think, documentaries that are going to the source and looking for information, not just buying into the big corporate media system, but finding truth by reading books, listening to documentaries and radio shows that are made by real people who have a real opinion. And then you can do, like what you do deprogramming paintings and artwork.
Right.
So
It's healing. It definitely helps you activate. And I really noticed, my husband got a big sales background, and I'd had a lot of sales training in the past, and they give you all these techniques as salespeople of how to plant things into people's ideas and stuff into people's minds. It was back then just for the purpose of selling a bed or whatever, but they are doing this en masse. They teach all sales organisations this, and they are doing all kinds of subliminal things to us, that because I've had hypnotherapy training as well, I'm a qualified hypnotherapist, I know how, this 12% conscious mind, the rest is 88% subconscious. The way to get someone into a hypnotic state is to overload this 12%, so it kind of opens up, and then it's like a dam that allows the subconscious to come through and bring information. And obviously in a healing hypnotherapy setting, that's all great, but do that same thing with ill intention or for them to get their way, then you suddenly got all these implants in your subconscious of things that you actually don't want. And I noticed it big time when I came to the States, because you drive down the highway here, and I'm fine, I just had breakfast or lunch, and you get 5 minutes down the highway and you've seen probably 20 different billboards for different food venues. So big that, you could make a huge table. I'm back, so I cut out for a second there. And by the time I'm 5 minutes down the road and I've just had my breakfast or lunch, I'm starting to feel hungry. Because their billboards are designed to plant all of these seeds, and because there's so many, you are completely overloaded. So that's not very pleasant. And because I am aware of that, I hope that someone is trying to call me. Sorry guys, I hope that's not interrupting our call here. And luckily I have that awareness, so I I can block it, and I know why I'm having those feelings, whereas other people are going to stop at McDonald's or whatever, even though they've just had their breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a really, really, really important thing. What you just said is the programming going on, like what you said, of the should almost dumbing down of the brain. So we're, and you see it in school on the kids. Like I've seen so many kids like looks like zombies because they're so tired. They're fed this information that is maybe not really important. And it's so overwhelming for them. So by the end of the day, they're exhausted. And when they come home, they're so easily to be programmed because it's just no resistance left.
Right.
And I think that's going to be something we're going to have to face sooner or later. But kids are numbed down and not awake enough so they can take proper action and be, you know, in contact with their higher self, even though they are, of course, but yeah.
All of this stuff is not helping them, and it's very relevant because I literally had this conversation with a friend yesterday, and her child is struggling with the snippets that he sees on the media and in advertising. It's stopping his sleeping patterns. He's not, you know, able to concentrate at school because of it. And, you know, he's a very sensitive little boy, bless him. And, you know, it's this conditioning that is really messing with him. And luckily his mother is very awake and aware. So they are, you know, doing things like hypnotherapy for him, giving him some relaxation techniques. He is very into nature. Kids thrive outdoors in nature. It really helps them to reset. And he's doing things like taekwondo to help you know, balance his energies and stuff as well. So there are things we can do for our kids to help in this crazy society. We're not a slave to it. We just have to be conscious of it, be aware that it's even happening, that you are being programmed all the time. So yeah,
So true.
I think, yeah, it's funny because I literally had that conversation with my friend yesterday who was about her little boy. So you've been traveling all over the world, and you're off again soon to Egypt.
Yes, yeah, that's going to be
Your
exciting.
pilgrimages of the heart.
Yeah, this time it's going to be discovering more of actually the ascension and portals and stuff like that. I'm lucky to travel with author Freddie Silva and a group of people. Yeah, so I can't wait to indulge in that, and starting to work on my second book, which is going to be more in depth, I think. Like I've touched many subjects in the old book, but the new book is really going to take it down to a basic, how do we do it? How do we awaken, and how do we really live a life as an awakened human being?
All right. Oh, that's, yeah. Well, I could feel that new book coming, that's for sure. So you've been getting lots of education and training and life experiences whilst you've been traveling all around the world. And I know that you've had, just like me, we meet all these amazing people along the way. Some stay, some are just for them. But they're actually been put there purposefully to help trigger and shift us. And I just am interested to know maybe a time where you were able to get one of those amazing shifts that kind of created a new paradigm for you.
Well, I could say two of the big shifts was 2012. Many of us had big changes and shifts then, but I woke up from my inner voice. I was hearing, you have to set the 10th alignment. And I just didn't know what that meant at all. It was like, what? And I started Googling, I started doing lots of research, like, what does this mean? What kind of, is this like something astrological? I called my mom and she didn't know. And at the end, I found this woman online who wrote about hearing her inner voice, Christine Hofflish, I think her name is. I still haven't sent her my book and thanked her enough, but I will, about how to really connect hearing your inner voice and what methods and techniques you could use. Because I felt like I was listening to so many other people, like I really forgot my own voice. So after that, I really did more research on the 10th alignment, and I found out, and I wrote about that in the book as well, about the Inca connection and how actually they talked about the golden discs and that there were many golden discs, but it was to connect with your higher self and hearing and then magnifying this inner sun, becoming unconditional loving. So it's a lot about Christ's consciousness, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Very.
So yeah, so that was one time when it was really. And not too long time ago, this May, I had something called the Kundalini Awakening, which I thought would be something that only would happen to gurus or big yoga masters. And always wanted to know and have that experience. And it finally happened, and it was mind-blowing. I thought I was dying, literally. And I guess part of me did die that day. My ego probably died, and I just became pure consciousness, which we all are. We're just asleep, not remembering that we're all are pure consciousness all the time. But since then, my life has really shifted, and I'm not as afraid as I used to be, and much more alive, I think. I think I'm getting younger also. It's weird, but I really think I'm
there is such a, I know you're part of the Faces of Silver movement that I am like in awe of. I'm like, when I grow up, I want to be just like them. And I'm like, I am so happy that there is this amazing group of women who are just owning their bodies, their wisdom, and everything that they are. And it immediately gives them youth. It's like, you know, this mindset that they have chosen to have. It's not, oh, they were born in great body, they have great skin, they've got good genes. They have really, really great thought patterns that are very supportive to their health, their mind, their bodies, their spirits. And I think I'm seeing it, you know, women and men as well, that are all, you know, you see a 6-year-old who has not got that mindset, that is on usually a lot of prescription drugs with arthritis, and, you know, is setting themselves up to die. And then year-old who's choosing something different, who also has arthritis, but is doing something else, who's making that choice to live another way. And I think it, you know, is so inspiring for younger women to see that age is not a failing in any way. I want to do away with, I am 37 years old. I'm at level 37. It's like, can you imagine saying, I'm at level 86 too?
Yeah.
And
No,
all the kids are going, oh God, I'm only level like 10.
yeah. No, I think after I turned 40, I like, okay, drop age. I kind of doesn't matter. And now, like, I feel like when people ask me how old I am, I feel like, you know, I'm timeless. I don't have age. And the truth is that it's just something we as well bought ourselves into, believing that we are actually immortal. But I believe that consciousness is infinite energy, and if we can align with that infinite energy, imagine what we could do. Like, how long will we live? Will we be able to live a healthy life without pain? Who knows? Like, yeah, no, it's okay. But I think,
believe that it doesn't have to be, again, the yogis and the people who have already proven that this can be done are human beings again. So it's just what we choose to practice, and it's amazing what the bodies do once they're in sync with the mind in a really healthy way. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we're talking about age and stuff. Let's talk about death. Another thing people are usually really afraid of. It's something that I welcome. To me, it's like a butterfly. Who's to say that when we die, we're not just, this wasn't the dream?
Yeah. One of the things that I think is important to talk about when it comes to death, like of course, I've been afraid of dying, I think, my whole life, and I can't say that I'm not afraid of losing a child or death in that sense, like the pain of, seeing them every day, even though I know they still exist. Like,
Right.
I know that intellectually, but since I haven't, should I say, have had a lot of death around me. Besides my husband's mom, when she passed away, she didn't die when we were there with her in hospital, but I could feel her leaving her body. And I can tell you, I've never felt somebody so close to myself like I did, that she was inside of me. It was beautiful. And then I knew kind of that there is no death. But I also like to talk about what happens when we die, because recently there's been a lot of talk about, when we die, we see this light and our ancestors will come and see us. And they have, scientifically proven, more or less, that we leave our soul, leave our body. There are lots of science about that. And people can read Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, for instance. But a lot of new information has come out that what we should try to strive for is to go back to source and not to this light, because we might be recycled on this planet over and over, like this reincarnation system that we get almost trapped into.
Right.
And I think it's important that when we work on ourselves and we become enlightened beings or light bodies, we can have more freedom and choose to go back to source where we came from.
Right.
And not be trapped into this recycling system.
This cycle on Earth, yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that, definitely. And yeah, more of that in the Dolores Cannon material as well. That will just kind of reiterate the soul's journey and kind of what the cycle is that many of us are actually involved in here. So
yeah.
So the opposite end of the spectrum is birth. I know that the birth of your daughter Taya, who is, she's so gorgeous. She's just like her mum, everybody. She's so beautiful. And not just outside, she's gorgeous outside, but on the inside, just, amazing, and
Thanks.
she's one of those people who's going to do something good with her life, with her energy, with her wealth, with everything. I can just feel it.
Thank you.
So what was it like when you were becoming a mother for the first time, that amazing journey?
Yeah, I mean, that was also like, she almost died, I guess. I had a 48-hour birth, didn't sleep. It was very tough. I thought I was going to die. I didn't. I came out realizing I survived. My body is strong and can do this. And I felt always that Taya, even though she was almost losing her life, was gonna live. And I felt her soul even before she actually came into her body. Yeah, birth is, to me, it's just a cycle, and we can be reborn every day if we choose to. And maybe that's what's really important, is to what we do with our life here and now and today. And how can I be more alive? How can I be more loving? How can I share myself more and not be a living dead, which is my greatest fear. It's to be dead. I mean, living like a dead person, I guess, a
Right,
zombie.
not truly alive,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly.
So
There's no worries there though. Yeah,
yeah, you
you're
kick
about
my
as
butt if
alive as
I
it
do that.
gets. You're as
Mm.
alive as they can get. Um, and so we did touch upon the 10th alignment already, but I want to talk about, whether you feel that there are connections in a lot of our ancient stories and religious texts.
Oh,
Um,
yes. And that's another favorite subject. Like, if we really look into the Bible and read the Bible, and there's also the other sacred texts, there's so much in common. Like, you start wondering who started it all and where does it come from? And where is the truth in all this? And why are there so many similar stories in the Bible and Egyptian sacred texts? There are many, many similarities. So it makes you think, where did it start?
right,
And so it's easy to get lost in that track when you start studying those things, like thinking, where do we come from? But for sure, I believe that there was an original species on this planet, and then maybe possible extraterrestrials came down and brought in more DNA, different kinds of people,
yeah,
and now we're merging and becoming the human race.
right,
But I think that whole thing with uh, who we are and what we came here to do is maybe more important, what we do with this energy, like the core of it, rather
right,
than the spiritual. It's like, it's not getting lost in where does the message come from. It's more, what is the message?
right, right. And for
And
me, what's helped is to go through all those different materials, all that different information, read the old ancient stories and the religious texts and the folklore and the mythology, and take it all in and
mm,
feel your way through it. What feels
mm,
right for you? What seems to have a reoccurring theme? I've one of the ways that I like to cultivate a free thinking mind is to never just take one source of information as truth,
mm,
no matter how good it might feel.
yeah,
I had to have more, and keep making sure that I'm on top of those things as well, because new truths are constantly emerging, new information is constantly emerging, and that we really have to be very active. Don't just leave the schooling to school. For me, my schooling started as soon as I left school. I
mm-hmm,
haven't stopped. Every day is always about learning, and if it's not ancient history, then yeah, it's current, what's going on, current events scientifically, and maybe even with the archaeology and our sacred sites and things around the world.
mm,
These are all really, to me, important things that we
yeah,
need to know,
yes,
because that's allowed me to put a lot more of this puzzle together. I don't have the
yeah.
answer,
And
but
it's
I
so,
feel I have a clearer vision
mm-hmm.
of what the deal is here.
Yeah, and you're so right about that. I think that's what partly also the illusion, or the system is not wanting to give us all the information, because then we will become more free beings and can think and act
Right.
from from our true selves, and then we become maybe uncontrollable.
Right.
So I think it's absolutely crucial that people start studying the ancient text, I think, because there's so much wisdom, there's so much truth in there, whether it's the Bible, or if it's the book of the One, or if it's
Even
the
the Egyptian Book of the Dead, one of my favourite authors, Graham Hancock, said, crying out loud, if anyone wants to know about death, read the Egyptian Book of the Dead. They put all their best minds to work on the subject for over 5,000 years.
yeah,
We, our society, haven't even written a page.
Yeah.
So,
And it's something we don't talk about because we put the old elderly away, so we don't see them, which is crazy, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, when I was in college, my first job was looking after the elderly. I was a carer, and I remember my auntie being upset a little bit that such a young girl was doing a job like
I
that.
actually did that too.
You did, and I
Yes.
actually think every person should do that before
Yeah,
they
very
start
important
their
job.
career. Because I thought, you know what, that's how I'm going to lead this life. Before I, you know, this young girl, I'm about to go and start a career and have a whole wide world in front of me. And these people have done it all. Who better to hang out with and show some respect to than these
Yeah.
people who have done it? And I think it
Yeah.
actually was really good for me. It made me realise what will happen to me one day, and to
Yeah.
make the most of this life, and to listen to
Mm-hmm.
these old people's stories and what they've learned, because they're amazing. And yeah, it upset me so bad. That's why I guess I lost my way with it in the end, because it became too depressing, because
Yeah.
they're not being cared for properly, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was too upsetting. And you know, I was growing up, and I guess at the time I don't think I realised, you know, why I was struggling with it so much, but I knew that they deserved more respect than they were getting, and that
Yeah.
we need to make peace with our elderly.
Yeah, we need to have a better system for sure, especially here in the States, like where everybody's driving so much and we don't really walk about and interact with each other as much maybe
Right.
as we do in Europe. But
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of miss that, the whole interaction sitting with the more knowledgeable most of the time, more
Right.
experienced beings. But so
Yeah, I definitely miss them, and I do. There's something that I've been looking into, which I would like to do later on in life, is to become. I think they're called death doulas.
yeah.
It's the
Mm.
same idea as a midwife, but it's for people just to help give them that guidance as they're making that transition to
Yeah,
leave the
that's a
earth. And
beautiful,
what
beautiful,
a
honorable
wonderful!
job for
I
sure.
know, I know. I just one day I'm going to so do that,
Mm.
and I really look forward to it, and I hope that I can inspire more people to do things like that. So chapter 28 in your book is my debut. This chapter's title is Discovering Magdalena,
Mm.
and uh, as I've told everyone before, Ava and I, you know, whenever we phone each other or message each other, it's normally pivotal. It's usually for something important, either way or both. Where it's never without good reason. So when I got a call from her to say that, you know, I'm moving, and you know, I need a little bit of help, and to do some stuff and garage sale and all of that stuff, and I was lucky enough to be free to come and help for a few days. So you know, the whole time that we're together for those days, we're chatting away, and as usual, these numerological synchronistic things are happening around us. And
Hmm.
you had just, I remember your crystals that you had not long just gotten, and you were just starting to understand them. And you asked me to hold this crystal that had
Hmm.
144 sides, if I'm correct.
I think it was I think it was Magdalena that you held the first, the
Yeah,
13 sided. That's
right.
when you started crying. Mm.
Right, this tear just went down my face. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. But so much numerology coming up, and we were talking a lot about um, divine feminine energy, the kappas, you know, and how it's a lot of it seems to uh, lead back to this. Um, you know, part of self-realization and the integration of our divine masculine and feminine
Hmm.
energies. And we even had this amazing turtle that showed up on your
Yeah.
driveway, and it had like you know, this is another way of seeing the signs. You know, you have an animal that just shows up out of nowhere that you don't usually see very often. You pay attention and you find out exactly what that animal means, and you only have to Google the meaning of a turtle, and then take it deeper. How many hexagons did the turtle have on its back? You know, our one had 13, and 13 is the number of the divine feminine. So it was like, oh my god, it was our divine, it was a Magdalena turtle.
Yes.
But we're having this conversation, and it suddenly reminds me, oh, I have a bunch of friends that are going to the Pyrenees. They're doing like a pilgrimage of the sacred feminine. You should look into that. And before I knew it, Ava was booking her ticket.
Yeah, and I think it was the last person. It was like I was the 12th or something. It was yeah, that was
a lot of time, like, because it was something I knew about for a while, but they were due to go like in weeks. I'm sure it was like you went in just a few weeks' notice, really.
It was just 1 week before, I think, wasn't it? Or two,
yeah,
1 or 2. It was just
I knew
like
it was a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So it was one or the other, and yeah. So this lovely sequence of events of you getting that crystal and her name, and then all of the numerological synchronicities that kept happening that were pushing you in that direction of making that journey to the Pyrenees.
Yeah, I mean, I really encourage everybody to just pay attention, as you said, to animals, but to numbers, how numbers come into our reality, how we choose to see the numbers that are surrounding us, because they're also messages, and they have frequencies. And you know, a lot of people talk about, there's so many different ideas about numbers, but originally all numbers are divine, or numbers come from divine source, from God, and then they have been interpreted by humans and used for different purposes. Sacred geometry is energy that can be used for both positive and negative, because it's just energy. So unfortunately, some numbers or numerology has gotten a bit of a bad rumor, because people don't go to source and learn all facts. They believe what they see and hear sometimes, and don't do further research.
You can use it or you can abuse it, you know.
Yeah,
and
like
there
anything.
are always going to be those people that will do that, you know. So
yeah,
it's just
but
your intention behind it.
Yes, and lately I think a lot of people have seen 1111, 22, 33, 44, and maybe this year a lot of people see 144 as part of being the new number for Christ consciousness. And that actually Christ consciousness, standing for unconditional love, is something that is being magnified right now in this moment, and a lot of people waking up to the truth.
And I can hear people saying, unconditional love, how is unconditional love being anchored in? And I'll tell you how. You know, it is because all of this extreme, awful stuff is happening on Earth that makes the opposite end of the spectrum magnify, actually. You know, you have to give an opportunity to express more love. That means maybe create some more challenges, or, you know, that the government seems completely crazy and out of control and stuff, and that people don't like each other. Well, actually, you're being given opportunities right now to anchor in that love. And those things that you don't like are just your triggers, your reminders of where you want to stand in this energy. Because
very true.
It's dualistic here. So, and so you went on this lovely mind-altering trip.
Yes, I was lucky to go with John and Marcella McBride from Charlotte, and who are beautiful people, and met Anya Sophia and Pete Wilson in south of France in the Pyrenees, who guided us on this in the steps of Mary Magdalene and the Cathars, and it just had a huge impact on me, and kind of, I guess, put me on the right track of writing the book, coming out, merging my sacred feminine and masculine within me. And that's something that we all can do. Some of us do it without being aware of it, I guess, as well. But for sure that the whole initiation process is part of becoming an enlightened being, a light body being, connected to our higher self.
Right.
So that was one way of doing it, and I strongly recommend it. It was a beautiful experience.
Right. And
so
yeah, that's, I mean, like I said, I love the way that Ava listens to those calls. She's open to it, and she knows that there's, you know, when we are feeling drawn to certain locations or modalities or healing tools or people, you know, you've got to follow that. There's a reason.
yeah.
And I know that you work with all kinds of different modalities like the plant medicines and things like that as well, that also really help to energetically shift us, and surrounding ourselves with people that can help create that healing container for you and are of like mind and have, you know, are going through similar experiences as well. I mean, it helps to support you on your journey so much rather than doing it alone all the time, because we already know it's quite a solitary path for the most part. So
yeah, it's so true, and everybody has to find what resonates with them, as you said. Yeah, so putting yourself out there, doing research, following your gut, and trusting that, really trusting that you know what's the best path for you.
right, no one knows better than yourself what your
Yeah.
needs are, and yeah, that's really good advice. So what about the sacred feminine and the masculine energies that we all have? I know that you and I have both been, you know, trying to integrate and get that balance in ourselves. What are your thoughts on the?
Well, I think we all have both. We all have a masculine and a feminine part of ourselves, that we can develop, and we can see that in the brain, the right and left brain, and how that works in the body. So it's also connected to earth and heaven, and you know, the crown chakra and the root chakra, and how that's connected to. And we can see in the what's it called? It's a difficult word. So this is the two snakes that are intertwined. It's a symbol for
healing.
For healing. Yes, for like all drugstores have that for medicine. Yeah, they're two. So they're intertwining along, following it. And to me, that's, you know, it's the sacred feminine and masculine. Also, the energy of intertwining our DNA, our coding, and so it's interconnected, both of them. When we're united, we become whole. But if we're saying no to one part of ourselves and becoming too much of a active, robotic, logic doer, maybe we're too much in our masculine self, and when we're too much in receptive mode and not active enough, we can become too feminine. So we both need both parts to be balanced. And that's why we need each other, so we can mirror each other with each other and learn from each other.
Completely.
And grow. So.
And I do, you know, it's funny because even though I'm in a female body, I have a lot of masculine energy, and my partner is in the male body and he has a lot of the feminine energy. And obviously we have to both work on making sure that we have that balance within ourselves, so that our relationship isn't all weird and too feminine or too masculine. But,
yeah.
yeah, and I'm definitely seeing more men, you know, integrating more of the sacred feminine energy as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of men are definitely waking up more and more to to the more receptive side of themselves, and nurturing themselves, nurturing, you know, overall
Definitely.
softer, that we can be. We don't have to be violent and do act out of fear, or and going more to that unconditional heart space.
Right, completely.
Mm.
So we're kind of moving towards the end. I just kind of want to know, for me, it's a very high cost when I'm not aligned with my higher self, when I am ignoring my inner voice, my needs, my intuition. Um, how much does it cost you when you're not aligned with yourself?
Mm. Well, I think it costs everything, your health for sure, your energy level, your immune system. When we're aligned with our own essence and our power, we have more strength, we have more understanding, knowing. There's so many things that can flow in the way it should. We rest well, we sleep well, we're in tune with our bodies, what we want to eat, what we don't want to eat, how we want to move our bodies. So for sure, it's costing our health. Maybe, who knows, maybe dying prematurely. It's costing us our relationship, because if we're not taking personal leadership and being aligned with who we are, people probably won't stand us living with us, because we become miserable assholes. I don't know. But, it's like, so it will cost us our relationships. It will cost maybe the planet, being aligned with who we are. We're more loving towards each other, towards the planet. We're respectful of each other and the planet and the animals, and maybe we'll take care of it better if we're aligned, because otherwise we'll just
Right. Well,
destroy
it's
it.
like you're cut off.
Mm.
It's like you're cut off when you don't have that connection. As soon as you're kind of aligned with your higher self, you're feeling connected to everything and everyone, and you learn that to do any harm to any of that is harming yourself, and vice versa.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
definitely a very high cost, I think, not to make that space, and it literally can start at 5 minutes meditating a day.
Absolutely. 5 minutes meditation, or just like, you know, talk to somebody. If you're alone, just find somebody to talk to and get clear on what do you want? Are you living your life the way it should be lived? Are you aligned with yourself? Um, is life going the way you want it to go? Those are simple questions, and um, sometimes we just need to talk to somebody or get out of our own way. And um, yeah, so there are many
Or
ways.
even read Ebba's book, because
Yes, you can
again,
read my book.
she will find those questions within us. She
Yeah,
will help you dig in, and she is that person who will get those answers out of you, because, as I've said before, there are intelligent questions in there that will trigger the right insights for you, and they can keep on coming. It's one of those books that you want to keep that one on the bookshelf to come back to. Um,
well, thank you
so,
for saying that.
I mean it. Um, so tell us, Ebba, how can everybody here become more aligned with their own true star, living their fullest potential? I know that you do on your website, truestarcoaching.com. You are doing one-to-one coaching services.
Yeah, I do one-on-one coaching. I will start doing group coaching for people who live in Charlotte, and small groups and big groups, and they're starting from January. And you can send me an email on ebba@truestarcoaching.com if you want, or you can go online on www.truestarcoaching.com and look at the information there. I do travel also for clients, and we will do some retreats in the future and workshops coming up. Some Right now, I'm not scheduled to have anything online for like a virtual retreat or virtual seminar or so, but I'm sure that might be coming. So
you never know, that
keep your,
might unfold in January once everything
yeah.
everything seems to be happening in January. So I wouldn't be surprised if that will come then. And also for anybody who wants to read Ebba's book right now, they can go to your website and download it for free, right?
Yeah, they can. They can also, if they want to, they can schedule a free strategy session. Won't cost
Right.
them anything if they just want to see if they just want to have some, quick feedback on where they are, what they're doing in their life. If they think that I can help them, I can
Right.
schedule that. Probably
And that's
in,
really easy to do. You just go on Ebba's website and there's like a little contact box for you to
yeah.
fill out. She'll get right back in touch with you at her earliest convenience. So,
Yes.
yes, truestarcoaching.com, and we're so lucky to be able to download her great book for free on her website. So,
And
if
then
you love
if
it,
you
please do go
if you
check
want
it
it signed, I do have paperback, and I can send it
out.
as well for it's $16.95 and plus shipping. So if anybody
Okay.
would like to have it shipped, I can do that too.
Okay, anyone who wants a hard copy, please make a note on the thread, get in touch with Ebba or myself, and we'll get those ordered for you. You're very lucky because that's a very good price. And the ones that are coming out in January, I mean, I'm so excited about seeing it hard paperback copy because I have the older Kindle version, and I know that you've updated it since then, and it looks spectacular. And you can go onto YouTube and stuff, and you can see like a little short interview with Ebba, with the author incubator, and kind of see a little bit about what the author incubator does as well, because they're ever so good. For anybody who has a story to tell, they're very good at helping you to kind of get that all together and give you some structure and stuff. And the promotion side of it was awesome, and that beautiful castle in Washington was gorgeous. So I think I have said everything, and I'm so glad that we didn't have too many technological problems after that first hour of trying to.
Oh my gosh, yes. I so apologize. Like we should have been more on top of it, but
I honestly, I didn't know, guys. It was something really simple. It said tap, and when I was tapping to add her, it wasn't. I had to like hold it. So I've learned all kinds of stuff this time around. It can keep getting better and better and better, and I'm glad, as usual, that so many of my learning curves are done with you, Ebba, because I know that you love me unconditionally, and that you understand that these things happen. So I'm just, thank you so much for spending this time with me, for taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing so much of your knowledge and your personal journey with us all. And I wish you the best of luck with your hard copy, and cannot wait for that other book to come out, because you're still coming back on here.
thank you so much for having me and bringing me on. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Frankie.
Me
You're
too.
amazing. I love you.
All right, everybody. Thank
And
you
thank
so
you
much.
for
If anyone,
coming.
I mean, we haven't really had too many questions come up here, so I think everyone just kind of has enjoyed it for everything that it is. If anyone has any questions afterwards, just comment on the thread, and I'll get back to you. So for people who are watching later on as well, just enjoy and feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have. Again, thank you, Ebba. Everybody
Thank you,
have a
love.
lovely day. I'm going to
Thanks
end this
everybody for
call.
coming.
Ebba, I'm just going to give you a quick call afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.